everybody, and welcome to the latest edition of the Inside Track. Special edition, this one. I thought it was good timing to get Russ on now that he's part of the Black Raccoon team. So how are you doing this morning, Russ?
I'm very good, thank you. How are you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm awesome, thank you. Now, obviously, it's been a few weeks since you joined the team, and I thought it was a really good idea to get you on, talk about who Russ is, because obviously you've done a lot from an operational point of view and in the franchise world, and I guess it's good to get you out there in terms of or get more people seeing who you are and what you do. So do you want to give us a quick rundown, because I was quite interested because you were a TV producer as your first career, which I thought was an interesting development from that to where you are now. So you want to give us a quick run through of what you've been doing?
Yeah, it's quite a varied amount that I've been doing. So I started off, so I did media at university, and then my first career was television. So I've done quite a lot of live television, done a lot of shopping television.
What sort of shows?
If you've done, you know, like the TV shopping channels.
Yeah.
So I produced and directed on quite a lot of those. That's a lot of good fun. Very good people. So I worked on quite a lot of those. I've done a lot of sport. Just before I opened my first club, I was involved in the 2012 Olympics. I've done some vision mixing and directing on the football, and then I did the Paralympics, and that was the summer. I think we opened our first club in November of that year. So then that was kind of one of my last things in television just before we opened our first club in Colchester. And then,
what a way to finish, though.
Oh, it was fantastic. Yeah, it was really good. Done all the men's football at Wembley, done all the women's, and then done the Paralympic swimming. So so that was very good. And then from there, kind of went over. We opened our first club in 2012. I'd sort of in between, whilst I was kind of moving on from television, I had retrained as a personal trainer. So I started doing personal training, and then that kind of naturally led into gym ownership, really, I guess. So I was looking for something to invest in. Anytime Fitness came along into the hometown where I was, and it kind of all worked out. So then ended up moving to Colchester. I don't know why we opened a gym in Colchester, but we opened a gym in Colchester. And then over the course of the next decade, continued to open a number of gyms, whilst also I was then approached by the franchise to do support for franchisees, so to help with pre-sales, to help with operations, and that led to the formation of 360-degree solutions, and we worked on most of the pre-sales for 5 or 6 year period.
And what's interesting, Russ, is that consultancy that you ran there was the first consultancy jobs that I had. So working for you guys was the first time I'd consulted after we closed my club. So it's quite funny how sort of 10 years later, it's a full circle, and now we're back working together on similar projects.
Yeah, I think the first time we met, actually, I think we were trying to be grandiose, and we met at the Grove.
Yeah, that's right.
In Hertfordshire. So so then I went on and done that work with a lot of clubs over a period, whilst also building the gyms. Then diversified slightly into coffee shops. Opened a different franchise, and opened coffee shops in some of the stations in London. We had Euston, St Pancras, and that was actually going pretty well. So it was, and then COVID happened, and that kind of that didn't really help the stations too much. So at that point we then we worked through COVID, worked through that period, reopened the clubs, and then exited the clubs at the back end of last year. In between that, I've been doing a lot of work with franchises as well. So I was working with a franchising company last year, supporting franchisees, setting up franchises, kind of A to Z of how to do a franchise, really. I
tell you what's interesting though, there's a couple of things in there that I'd like to pick up on, because when you started as a franchisee with Anytime, weren't you the third club, second club?
Yeah, I
the
think the
UK?
third club, I think there was Bristol and King's Cross, I think, were the first two.
Which is amazing, considering what they've got 200 clubs now. So to be right in there at the start and seeing how it developed and how it's changed must be a fantastic thing to be a part of.
Yeah, well, it's great to be a part of the journey because, like I say, all of the early clubs, it was quite obviously a smaller infrastructure that we had at that point. So was heavily involved in the early training of franchisees, of the on-the-ground support for franchisees, and just really seeing it grow and seeing the infrastructure grow and seeing different networks and seeing the early franchisees sort of grow into multi-site franchisees and being a part of that journey was fantastic. It was a big part of my life.
Oh, absolutely. And the great thing about it is you see all the, I mean, obviously Anytime Fitness were a big brand anyway before they came to the UK. So you get to see how these big behemoth of franchises are able to launch in other countries, able to launch new businesses from the start. So when you were doing your work with the Franchise Guru and so on, I guess it was quite easy to pull on that experience to go, okay, this is how we do it right. These are the pitfalls to avoid.
Yeah, absolutely. You see the early stages, and I mean, like I said, I mean, it was so early on that we did our training in because there wasn't really a setup in the UK, so we were sent over to the head office in Minnesota, and we went over there and did our training for a week, and that's really invaluable because obviously we saw the Americana and the owners of the franchise were involved in the training there, so it was really kind of inspiring when you came back to open your club. And yeah, like I say, over that period, like 2012 to 2024, it grew from sort of 2 or 3 clubs to over 200 clubs in the UK. And, there'd be some massive successes, but obviously, there's some learnings for the franchise and learning for franchisees during that period, for sure.
And then the other one I want to pick up on, because you didn't really mention it, obviously with COVID, you guys pivoted your sort of 4 or 5 clubs. They pivoted massively, and that brought out sort of TIMA.
Oh, I didn't even mention TIMA in that. I was kind of thinking it was already sounding quite varied what I do. But yes, so going into COVID, or we coming out of COVID actually, probably the 3rd lockdown. So I forget how many lockdowns we had in the end. But we closed the clubs, reopened the clubs, closed them, reopened them, and there was learnings every time there's some real issues here on, well, we've got people who are concerned about coming back into the club, so we need to speak to them, we need to engage with them. We're 30 to 40% down on our memberships, and the memberships we have are people we don't know if they're going to come back into the club or not. It's complete uncertainty. So we done the reopenings twice, and we sort of found the workload of doing that and then trying to do this massive sales push is incredibly difficult and incredibly straining because you have to have so much gym floor presence. You have to reassure people about the safety of what they're doing. And, it's kind of too much to expect the team to do all of that stuff, to do all of the retention calls, to follow up all the people who are doing their cancel direct debits. And then as an owner, you're pushing them to do 150 odd sales. It's something's kind of got to give there. So we done the 2 openings and they were really difficult. And then during the 3rd lockdown, that was when we started to work on, is there a better way of doing this? And that's where TIMA came about, really. So at that point, we looked at it and we were like, actually, can we take some of these tasks away and centralize them for our set of clubs? Yeah. So we employed a team who were just doing the retention and doing that side of the activity. They were doing the cancellations and making sure that members were communicated with, and just allowing our team just to focus on, right, let's create a good atmosphere for everyone who's coming back into the club, focus on the sales, focus on the rebuild, and then allow TIMA to kind of stabilize the membership base that we have at the moment. So we did that, and we initially located in Rugby. We actually took a couple of our team out of the club there and placed them into TIMA so that we had some on-the-ground fitness experience. And we initially just set it up for our initial set of clubs to kind of get proof of concept, I guess, in a way. And really, it was just to stabilize our own business initially. And then, it was such a success and it went so well, and it allowed the teams to really focus on what they should be doing, that it was kind of organic, because we started to have franchisees that were approaching us. So our first set of external clients all came from other franchisees within Anytime who had just heard about what we were doing, understood. If you're an experienced operator, you know the pinch points and you know where the real difficulties are, and they could see the value in what we were doing. So we gradually started to take on clubs, and it was at that point that we then approached Anytime Fitness about what we were doing and what the activity was that we were doing. And then we got a pilot with them. We got an initial set of clubs we started working with, and then it's just kind of grown and grown from there, really. And now, we've relocated twice more due to growth. We're now based in Sutton, in London. We've got a strong team there. We've got wide range of Anytime clubs. We do a lot of pre-sales support there. So again, it's kind of the same thing of when you do the pre-sales, is you want the people out there prospecting and getting the prospects in, but then it's the challenge of who's going to ring these people, who's going to follow them up. So we pick up a lot of that. We work with the franchisees on that. And then we continue to work with mature clubs on whatever their direction is, whether or not it's they've got a problem with debt, whether they've got a problem with member engagement, whether it's appointment booking for sales. We do quite a lot of that. And then we've started to expand out into other operators as well now.
I mean, it's brilliant. They work with a couple of you guys work with a couple of my clubs that I work with. And I think the big problem a lot of clubs have, and this is where TIMA comes in, is you hire great staff for the club. So whether that be reception, the brilliant at that, whether it be the gym floor, and quite often they hate the phone, especially the younger generation these days. They hate the phone. So the biggest challenge I have with working with clubs is to get them to do the telephone calls, to get them to book those appointments. You get the leads in, but then nothing's happening with them. And the great thing about you guys is it's just a matter of the lead goes into the system, the guy's picking up, and literally most times within the first hour, if not quicker, those leads are picked up, booked in, and then the guys on the ground can do the tours. And it takes such a massive pressure off those clubs having to do those calls and because we all know it's speed to action, isn't it? If you wait too long, which a lot of clubs do, that lead's gone. And if you're teaching a class, doing all the stuff in the club, it could be 24 hours, 48 hours before the lead's responded to. And we all know that's just too late. So TIMA pick that up and deliver it. And what's nice, it started as a project to save your clubs, to obviously keep the members going. And now it's turned into what is an incredibly successful business so far, in an area where, let's be honest, quite a few people have tried it, Russ, and not succeeded.
I guess it's a case of picking a lane on these things, though, because it's quite easy to, I guess, be approached. So, and sort of be everything to everyone, and you have people approaching, and we want you to do this activity, we want you to do sales. So we want you to do pure sales. We don't want a sales team in the club. We just want to outsource it all to you guys. Now, there's things that we can do, like the appointment booking and stuff, but there's always, our business is the human element. So ours is about doing the calls, interacting with people, and you're still going to need that in the club as well. So it's kind of working as a team with the club. But I think that's what I've seen of when people have done a similar thing in the past, that it's just very easy to say, yep, we can do that. And then before you know it, you're trying to perform a set of tasks that just aren't necessarily in your wheelhouse. And that's when you really start to run into problems.
It's the same as when I work with people with fit leads and do the digital marketing. You quite often, can we automate it and get all the sales online? Well, no, it doesn't work like that. I can generate leads, and absolutely we can automate the process, and we can do follow-ups, and we can do all that sort of stuff. Absolutely. But most people, when they're joining a gym, will want to see it before unless you're in pre-sale. Pre-sale works very well with online joining and stuff like that, because there is no club to go and see. So they're joining on the premise that they're getting a discount for the fact that they can't see the club. But once the club's open, those online sales drop massively. And I think probably the only business are these sort of budget clubs, because that's their process. There is no other way to join. You don't go and have a look around the club, really. You just sign up. But for $9.99, there's
no barrier to entry. But if you're a club that's looking for a joining fee or an induction fee, whatever you want to call it, you're looking for a commitment period of whatever that period is. If you're looking for a 12-month commitment, and then you're potentially, you're looking for an upfront fee, there's a number of barriers there that are going to mean that you're not just going to ring someone and they're going to say, yeah, that's absolutely fine. They're going to want to try it out. They're going to want to kind of feel it and get a sense of it and see what the atmosphere is like in the club. And you can't really do that over the phone. Like you say, it's just if it's a $9.99, no contract, no obligation, it works for that, but it doesn't work for most operators.
No, it doesn't. So, obviously now you've joined us here at Black Raccoon, which I'm super excited about. In terms of your experiences in the club, I mean, obviously you've worked with independents, you've worked with franchise, you've worked with. What would you say is generally the biggest challenge that these clubs tend to face when you're speaking to owners? What tends to be their main focus?
I guess it's a lot of owners. If you've got an owner who is just, I guess their sole interest is the gym and they're absolutely on top of it, then okay. But I guess they're still, you don't know what you don't know. So for those operators, you could be absolutely on top of it and you think you're doing everything, but actually it only takes someone to come in and sort of point out, okay, what about this process? What about this? How are you dealing with that? I kind of feel like it's often, maybe it's not even introducing the basics. So I don't want to sound insulting, but sometimes it's that clubs have had the basics in place. They've had the processes in place. And then for whatever reason, they've kind of got a little bit sloppy or a little bit unfocused. I think it's a case of, I always just think processes, start with the processes, start with the foundations of it. So before you look at it, and you can say, right, well, what are you doing with this? What are you doing with that? Actually, what are you doing with an appointment? Are you following them up correctly? What are you doing with your members in debt? Sometimes it's kind of the unsexy stuff that you really need to fix first. And it's if you fix that and you start to get the processes in place and you get people working in the right way, then naturally, things progress from there. So I always just think it's starting basic. You start with your overall plan. You put a timeline in place of how you're going to deliver that plan. But on day one, we're going to make sure that we're getting our sales process right, our retention process right, our appointment process right, make sure that the club is running in the way that it should be, and then we can start to progress from there. So I think that's kind of a common thing. That's the way that I've always approached a project, because it's very, someone will say they've got a big thing, right? Okay, our biggest thing here is we don't have enough personal training revenue or something. Okay, yes, we can look at that, but let's make sure that the club is running well in the first place and make sure that you've got the procedure and the process in place to run correct personal training before we just start to look at this as a project over here. That's the way that I always like to start, because otherwise you're just kind of chasing your tail because you're focusing on something else. And then it's like, yeah, but we're still not getting sales. Yes, because we haven't fixed the root of the problem here. Let's fix the root and then we'll work out from there.
Well, a classic example with personal training is someone they'll suddenly realize they want to do some sales, never communicated with the members at all. So you've got a member that's probably been there, I don't know, 6 months, 12 months, whatever it is. Suddenly they get a sales email through, and that's the first communication they've had from the club. Now that doesn't engender any trust, anything. So you've got to sort of sort out those communication channels. You've got to sort out what the product is to start with. Quite often PTs will be allowed just to do their own thing. There's no consistent product as regards personal training. So you're sort of going, you're right, you have to bring a lot of this back to basics. And it's true as well that most of these gym owners know what they're doing, or they started doing certain things. It's the same as knowing their numbers. Quite often they started off knowing their daily numbers, what they needed to achieve, what their targets. 12, 18 months, 2 years in, they're not looking at that. They're going day by day, get to the end of the month and go, well, we've not really done very well this month. And you're going, well, what was your target? Oh, I don't know. And you're just like, well, let's go back to that. Let's look at your numbers. Let's look at where you need to be. Set yourself some targets, and let's move forward. And I know, having worked with you before, that I mean, you love the data. which is half the challenge. So anybody working with Russ going forward, just realise he will be in your data.
Yeah, and I think that's, and I guess the biggest thing is also just looking after the members. I think starting from within the club rather than starting with, right, we need to grow it by, and I know we had this discussion last week, we need to grow it by 200 members. Okay, let's make sure that what do our existing members think of this club in the first place? Have we got a sustainable leaver number? What is our percentage each month, and can we improve that? Have we got a club that people are enjoying going to? Are they going to refer it to their friends? Because otherwise, I mean, the marketing is the expensive part. So if you can avoid some of the marketing activity and you can actually just, I'm not saying don't market, by the way, I'm just saying though, that if you're looking to bring in 150 odd members in a month, then maybe if we could save 10 of those, it's going to save you some money on marketing, and it's actually, you know, you're going to have happier members because they're already there in the first place. So what do your members think of it? How do you stabilize the club? And then you can build out from there.
Absolutely. I mean, I've worked with so many clubs. I remember working as general manager of Fitness First years ago, early 2000s. And I remember one club winning sales of the month. And don't get me wrong, they smashed the sales, 200 odd sales they'd done in the month. But they'd lost 30 more than they signed up. So they'd lost something like 250, signed up 220. And yet they were getting awarded for their success. And you're like going, hold on a minute, they've actually gone backwards. So where's the success in that? Yes, they've had a good sales and reward the membership team for selling that many, but the general manager shouldn't be winning any awards for taking a club backwards, because clearly they've got issues at the club, and that's quite often the case in a lot of clubs where the retention is so bad that really they're either standing still or going backwards because they're not really focusing on keeping those members engaged in the clubs.
No, absolutely. It's just like it's a bucket with a hole in it, isn't it? So it's just that's all you're doing, and it's just every club and also every demographic only has so many people in it. Unless you're in a massively built up area, at some point either your bad reputation or just you've marketed. You know, your market has what it has in it. So you're going out and prospecting. You're probably speaking to a lot of the same people. You're hitting the same, you know. Protect the members you have. They've invested in the club, they've invested in it for a reason. Put the time and effort into them, stabilize the club, and then grow out from there.
Absolutely. Now, in terms of you coming on board, Russ, I mean, obviously you've got a lot of experience working with clubs. I mean, obviously we've got a focus to carry on working with independent clubs. I guess where's your focus? I mean, obviously wide range, but who would you like to start talking to and working with?
Certainly franchising. I mean, obviously I've got a huge amount of franchising experience, so working with those operators, because I can massively empathize with anyone who has opened a club, and I guess it's the same obviously for independent operators. It just happens to be my background's more franchising, is that they've put a lot of money and their future and their security on the line. So I have a massive amount of empathy for those people and working with them to make sure that this is a success, and also to work with franchisors as well. So working with franchisors to build their franchises in the right way, to bring on the right kind of franchisees, to make sure that their franchisees are successful. I guess that is definitely one area. And then, let's say, you know, independent gym owners are absolutely no different, really, are they? In that they've invested, they want to make this work. They obviously have a huge passion for it, because you don't open a gym really if you don't have the passion. Absolutely. And if you do open a gym and you don't have the passion for it, then you probably shouldn't have opened a gym, because it's one of those things where you need to. So it's looking for people with passion to work with, and who are invested in their club, who are invested in their members, invested in success. That's what we're looking for.
I think the interesting thing is as well, and I think this is a really important point, we can work with the franchisors. So traditionally, we going out to the individual club owners and trying to work with those guys. But I think there's a real opportunity here for franchises just to change the mindset slightly, and look at people like yourself, like Black Raccoon, to go in and support them. Now, whether that be on pre-sales, because between us we must have done 100 pre-sales.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So that's nailed. We've got TIMA behind us as well to help support that. But also on those clubs that don't necessarily get the support that they probably need, and quite often the franchise aren't aware of the challenges, or if they are, they haven't got the capacity to necessarily go out and do those. And so I think there's a real opportunity for us to support those clubs, especially now that you're on board with all that experience, to be able to go in and help these clubs perform better, drive them up, either put them into a sellable position if the franchise wants to exit, or get them back on the straight and narrow and start making some decent profit.
Yeah, because I think obviously within any network, there's always going to be those operators who just kind of get on with what they're doing, don't massively engage for whatever reason, and sometimes those are the ones who need the most support. So absolutely, those are the kind of clubs that we really love to work with.
Absolutely. Now, I'm not going to keep you on much longer, Russ. I just wanted to introduce everybody to yourself. Those guys that don't know you, I know you're pretty well connected in the industry anyway. If somebody wants to get in touch with Russ, obviously he's all over LinkedIn, and he's part of the Black Raccoon, so just email us there. Any final words of wisdom, as it's a Friday, Russ, that you want to give these clubs out there?
Put me on the spot there. I don't. Again, the words of wisdom are just look after your members. That would always be my biggest words of wisdom. If you've got some great outreach this weekend, then fantastic. But what are your team doing for the club, for your members who are going to be working out in the club? Just be member centric, and then I don't think you can go too far wrong with this. So that's always start with the club. Give yourself a good product, and it will sell itself when people come in. But if you don't look after the club and you don't look after your members, then forget it. One way. Absolutely.
Well, thanks for jumping on this morning, Russ. Obviously, look forward to the future. I think we've got some exciting times ahead, and we'll go from there. So, thanks for your time.
Thanks, mate.